I guess you could say that my journey really began on my coach tour when we went to the market at Morton on the Marsh. Here I met a wonderful lady named Samina. She was selling the most beautiful massage oils and invited me to have a free head massage and arm massage. Well, I didn't realise it, but she was massaging me with frankincense. And this set in motion a chain of events for the next few days that just were absolutely mind-blowing for me. I'm still blown away. So full of gratitude and just feel so blessed for what happened next. Our next stop on the coach journey was Stow on the Marsh, and here I was drawn to go into St Edward's Church. I'm not a church person. I believe in spirit, I believe in lots of things, but churches, I kind of always thought, well, they're just full of hypocrites, they're full of people that are not really in alignment with what I believe. So I kind of stayed away from them. But I was drawn to go into St Edward's Church. And when I sat down, I could feel myself tingling, that beautiful tingling feeling that I get whenever Archangel Samuel comes close. And what he said to me was, energy congregates where it is built. So wherever people worship together and actually feel faith and hope and love, then that energy just builds and builds and builds. And that was just, it was beautiful, it was lovely to feel that. That evening, when we went back to the hotel that we were staying in, I heard church bells, and I went across to the church across the road from our hotel, and the bells were just pealing, and it was just so beautiful, so I videoed it, as you would. And when I got back into my room, I could feel the urge to just play this over and over again to clear out all of the bad energy that anyone might have brought into that room previously. That night, when I got up to use the toilet, I could actually see a dark entity outside the door trying to get in, but it couldn't. And I called on Archangel Samuel and I asked him, can you please take that away and give it a nice home, transform it, whatever you do with it. But please don't leave it out in the hallway because I didn't want it to attach to anyone else. And he did that. The following day, we visited Oxford. I was actually really so excited to go to Oxford because my intention was to visit some of the universities where I would then go onto Facebook and tell everybody that I've been to all these Oxford universities. Not necessarily an untruth, I've been. It didn't mean that I was educated there. Clearly not educated at Oxford. However, that was my intention. The angels had other intentions. When I got off the bus, the first thing that I seen was Mary Magdalene Church, and I was told, go in. So I went into Mary Magdalene Church, and really the feeling of absolute love inside there was just immense. I could actually sense the Mary Magdalene and the Mother of Christ were both there, but even better still was I felt that Christ energy. When you get that Christ energy come into you and your heart just feels that it wants to explode with absolute joy. And I felt that. So I did sit there for a while and just closed my eyes and soaked up all this beautiful energy. Then I went and I lit 4 candles. One for Archangel Samuel to say thank you for taking me there. One for the 2 Marys who were there. One for the Christ energy who was there. And one for my husband George, who's always with me. When I was done, I went to pay for the candles. I mean, it's decent, isn't it? You at least give a donation. So I went to give a donation for the candles. And there was a lady there, she was selling tea and coffee and chatting to people. And she said to me, you've got to go to Christ Church. And I was like, right, okay. Christ Church to me was a university. That was my intentions. I wanted to go to the Christ Church anyway. So I decided to go and try and find it. It took me ages to find Christ Church, by the way. And I mean, really, seriously, if you see Christ Church, it's massive. It is huge. But it took me ages to find it. However, after some sort of to and fro, about half an hour later, I was walking past an alleyway that actually said staff entrance to Christ Church. And Archangel Samuel said, that's us. And I was like, no, that's you. I'm walking around here in this 3D body. I can't go in there. So then he said, tell them you want to pray. And I thought, well, yeah, okay, all right. So I went to the door. There was, well, I mean, right, okay, in my layman's terms, I'm going to say there was a bouncer on the door, making sure that you had bought your £17.50, I believe, ticket, £17.50 to get in, anyway. And I looked at him and I says to him, I really just want to go into the church to pray. And he says, I'll radio over and let them know that you're on your way. So he did, and he pointed me in the right direction. I walked right over the courtyard and into this, really, it has to be said, it is a beautiful church, but it is completely empty, apart from tourists. There is no real energy there. So I thought, right, okay, well, maybe if I just do that, if I just sit here and pray. So I sat down on a pew, and right in front of me was a beautiful stained glass window with Archangel Michael on it. And I just closed my eyes and I got a message from him, and he said, find me. And I went, right, okay, so I'll just close my eyes a little bit longer and see, find you within. And he said, no, go out and find me. Well, I didn't take a photograph of that particular stained glass window because that church was absolutely heaving. It was just so busy. So I left the church and walked the streets of Oxford looking to see what am I supposed to find here. I have no idea. Then I walked past this, I found a hippie sitting meditating and selling trinkets. And funnily enough, they were trinkets of mostly Norse and Viking origin. And I got talking to him, and he says to me, you know what I think you need? And he picked up this little medallion, and it was Archangel Michael. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe that's what he meant. So I took it in my hand, and I got the message, no, not that. So I was like, well, you know, I'm not going to buy it, but gave him a donation anyway. The next thing was that I walked away from him, and maybe about 50 yards, not far anyway. And I tell you what, I had to have walked past this actual building. So right close to where this guy was a church called St. Michael's. So I went in there, and as I went in through the door, whoosh, it was just absolute bliss. I was just hit with this absolutely amazing energy to the point where tears started to stream down my face, and I had to go and sit in a pew. And I sat there giving thanks and just feeling so humbled. So I sat there, and yes, I could feel the Christ energy there too. When I opened my eyes again, I thought, right, okay, I need to light a candle in here. So I lit a candle. This time I lit a candle for Archangel Michael in gratitude for bringing me here. And I bought a tiny little stained glass window to put on my treatment room window. And I thought that I was buying something that was actually Archangel Michael, but it wasn't. Believe it or not, it was Mother Mary. How about that? Full circle, I'm thinking. So the very last day of our coach trip, we're at Stratford-on-Avon, and I decided to go with two other people that I was travelling with. We were going to go on the river cruise, and it was lovely. It really was. It was a beautiful day, and there were swans and ducks and geese, and I mean, it was just gorgeous. And as the river cruise went by, and they were pointing out all these different places, and we went past this church called the Trinity Church, and I was like, right, okay, I'll need to go there. So I did, but before I did, I was taking photographs, snap, 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 quite happily, all these beautiful trees and all sorts of things, and I got the most beautiful photograph of an orb on the river. And every time I look at this picture, I can see, I know exactly who that is. That is Archangel Chamuel. That is my spirit guide. So I decided then, when we got off the cruise, take a little walk along to Trinity. And as I did, there was a man, a security guard for the theatre, walking along the riverbank singing, and he was singing the Israelites. And I thought, how profound is that? You know, I mean, that was always something that it always reminded me of sort of church days when I was a kid. And then I got along to Trinity Church. Now, again, it was busy because this is the church where William Shakespeare is buried. But they don't charge you to get in there. They're actually very pleased for you to come in through the doors, and if you give a donation, then they're happy with that. But they just love it if you come through the door. And once again, I got whoosh, just this amazing energy coming down on me. And I spoke to, I think she said she was a lay minister, someone who was training to be a minister. And she was saying that their church is a working church and it's busy every single Sunday. They have so many worshippers go in there, and that'd be why that energy was just so immense in there. It was just beautiful. So the ultimate message that I got from Archangel Shamuel at the end of my trip was energy depletes when commercialism comes in. And that makes so much sense to me. I mean, in all of my years of working with energy, I've always tried to keep my prices fair and tried to be as available as I possibly can to anyone who needs me. And I just know that that is now paying off. And I'm humbled. I am absolutely humbled and blessed. And I hope that you get a good sense of what an amazing journey I had this week. So thank you for watching. Love you guys.